Good evening, everybody. So we've got a full house. We're going to get started here in just a couple minutes. Our meeting starts promptly at 7. So we've got just a couple minutes and we'll be getting started. Okay, it is 7 o'clock, and we will call this meeting to order. Today is Thursday, September 19th, 2024. It is 7 p.m., and we will call this meeting of the Bristol Town Council to order. And first item on the agenda is to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Okay, we will start off next with our roll call. To my left, Doug DeSmith.
Here. Here.
Kathy Burke.
Here.
Greg Tuholsky.
Here.
Jeff Beachy's here. Also present, Legal Counsel Alex Bowman. Here. Town Marshal Steve Preem. Here. Town Manager Mike Yoder. And Clerk Treasurer Kathy Antonelli. Okay, has everybody had a chance to review the agenda?
Yes.
Okay. Any changes or corrections or additions to the agenda?
No.
Okay. The agenda will stand as published. Next item is the approval of the invoices, last month's bills. Everybody had a chance to review the invoices from last month?
Yes.
Okay. Is there a motion to approve the invoices?
I'll make a motion to approve the invoices. Second.
Okay. Motion by Doug, second by Dean. Open for discussion. No further discussion. We'll take a vote. Doug DeSmith.
Yes.
Dean Renfro.
Yes.
Kathy Burke.
Yes.
Greg Tuholsky.
Yes.
And Jeff Beachy's a yes. Okay. Just make sure we use microphones, guys, so the live stream can hear. Okay, next item in the agenda, approval of the previous month's minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes? What's that? Oh, no minutes review. Okay. All right. So next item on the agenda, item number 7. And for you folks in the crowd, you can see it on the screen up here. Item number 7, planning and development items. And the first item under planning and development is letter A, which is a second reading of ordinance 9-5-2024-22, rezoning for the Wilhelm Farm. So to start off with this motion, or to start off with this item, I'm going to make a motion that we amend the ordinance to include written commitments that will be presented during the presentation from Province Group.
I'll second that motion.
Use your microphone.
I'll second the motion.
Okay, motion by Jeff, second by Kathy. Open for discussion. Okay. And just a note for the record, this is a form that was distributed to the council previously and will be shared in the presentation in a few minutes. Okay, any further discussion? If not, we'll take a vote. Doug DeSmith?
Yes.
Dean Renfro?
Yes.
Kathy Burke?
Yes.
Craig Tuholsky,
Yes.
and Jeff Beach is a yes. Motion carries. Okay, next we will have a staff report from the Elkhart Planning and Zoning Board.
If they're here, they may not be. They made the presentation at the last meeting.
Okay, is Danny here? Okay, so it'll be the same report that was presented at the last meeting, which was 2 weeks ago. And for anybody that wasn't there, the Planning Commission gave an overwhelming vote of 8-0 in favor of the rezoning. So next, we're going to have Tim from Providence Group stand and speak on an update on information that he shared 2 weeks ago. So Tim, if you'd like to present, please do.
Can everybody hear me? Okay, great. Maybe I can, is that, seems like there's some feedback here. Okay, maybe that's a little better if I stand right here. All right, well, thank you. Thank you for having us back this evening. Tim Ram on behalf of the applicant. We're pleased to be back for the second reading tonight for the rezone of the 247-acre Wilhelm Farm property. We are excited that the project is in front of you again, and what we heard very clearly from the council a couple of weeks ago was that there were some remaining questions and concerns about the application that you wanted answered. So you charged us with returning with those answers and addressing the questions. And so we've had the ability to do that, to huddle with our consultant team and provide answers to the questions and concerns. So I did prepare a presentation that I can give that addresses those topics, and if that's ready, we can do that now.
Tony, you're prepared to run through the presentation?
Next slide. Next one. Next.
Okay, there's some, looks like some new folks in the audience, so I included this slide again. You've seen it before, but what is important to note here is that a data center is a very positive, strong economic use. It's really a powerhouse for the communities that they reside within. It is going to be important to the state, the county, and the town of Bristol because of the economic benefits that are generated from these data centers. And the other thing that's important here is that they're very low impact uses, about the best that you could possibly ask for on a number of fronts. And so data centers do not create much vehicular or truck trips, any traffic. They are a low traffic generator compared to many of the other M1 and M2 uses. So oftentimes people are very concerned about traffic, and if that's the case, then hopefully you're a supporter of this project because it generates little of that. They do not impact schools or parks, and they will not impact police, fire, or emergency services. They're sophisticated buildings that are staffed 24/7, 365, and so if there are issues that pop up, they're handled very quickly. What they do, however, is create a significant positive economic impact for the local jurisdiction, the county, and again, the state. They're providing high-quality jobs, good pay, good benefits, and that's when the data center is up and operational. In the interim, during the construction period, because the buildings are sophisticated, they provide good quality construction jobs, which is also important and often people like. They really enhance modern living through technology. I held up my cell phone before, and all of the applications that we run on a day-to-day basis really run through data centers, and so they're an important part of modern living. Next slide, please. So again, we heard very clearly direction to go back and address a number of issues here this evening, and so we've done that. We've huddled up with our consultant team and brought back answers to a number of these questions related to noise, light pollution, buffers and setbacks. The access from CR 23 was important to many, many people, particularly the neighbors to the south. And then there was a lot of discussion about town approval of the site plan. The county has approval of the site plan, but also making sure that the town has approval so that they can enforce a number of the things that we've said and brought forward. Next slide, please. So we submitted this letter from our acoustic consultant, Cerami. They are well known in the data center business and have worked on dozens and dozens of projects. We laid out the particular location here and what we're contemplating in terms of the setbacks, the berms, the landscaping, the various measures that we can take to attenuate the sound and address the concerns. And they've provided a letter saying that they're confident that we will be able to meet the new noise ordinance that the town is generating, and are confident that there are a variety of ways for us to be able to do that. Next slide, please. So the noise, a little bit more information on that. The town is in the process, we understand, of updating their noise ordinance. It was 85 decibels, I believe, as a maximum, and that, I imagine, is going to be reduced, is my understanding. So we will need to comply with the new noise ordinance, and we're prepared to do that. There was a fair amount of discussion from the southern neighbors in particular about noise, and so what we've brought forward is a building setback that's 150 feet minimum along the entire southern property line, which is important and helps to make sure that the sound is attenuated. We've created an enhanced landscape buffer along that entire southern property line, which includes a 6-foot tall berm, again, across the entire southern edge. And I'll show you a diagram that depicts where that goes in the next couple of slides here. So we have committed to these protections for our neighbors in a written commitment, and that we'll adhere to that, and that will help certainly with this issue. Next slide, please. There was a lot of discussion at the last meeting about light pollution, so we have addressed that in a written commitment also. We will submit, as Mark indicated at the last meeting, a photometric plan to the town as a part of the site plan review, so that everything, all of the lighting, can be reviewed as a part of the project. That's important and gives you oversight over the light pollution concerns, certainly. We've indicated that we'll reduce the pole-mounted light fixtures from 25 feet to 18 feet. That's in that written commitment. The building-mounted light fixtures will be a maximum of 35 feet tall. Uplighting will be prohibited across the entire lighting spectrum. And then all of the light fixtures will include the use of shrouds that help to prevent glare and reduce light pollution. So those are all included as written commitments. Next slide, please. There was a fair amount of discussion about the buffers and setbacks and the neighbors wanting an enhanced buffer and setback, and so we have provided that in direct response to that last meeting and some of the neighbor concerns. There is a written commitment now that, and an exhibit that I'll show you, that establishes buffers and setbacks along that entire southern property line. And this is important. We heard it loud and clear, and so have put it into a written commitment. There's a 50-foot landscape buffer. The minimum required is 10 feet, so this is 5 times what is required. And that landscape buffer includes a 6-foot tall berm with landscaping. So that will be across the entire southern property line. There's also a 150-foot building setback, which is double the requirement on CR 23. There were questions and concerns about that. So we've committed to that as a part of the project moving forward. That's also, 150 feet is also 3 times the requirement that wraps the homes at the bend on CR 23. Next slide, please. This shows the location of the landscaping along the property. I have a better image here. Next slide, please. This shows the site, the 247 acres. CR 23 is adjacent to the green, so you can see where that 50-foot landscape buffer is across the entire southern property line, wrapping the homes at the bend in CR 23, continuing back south, and then back all the way to the west. So that's an important part of this project now, and a written commitment. This also shows the 150-foot building setback line minimum along the entire southern property line, and that starts from the east, it runs along CR 23, wraps up and around those neighbors, back down, and then to the west. An important written commitment and meant to address neighbor concerns. Next slide, please. This shows the 6-foot tall berm that would go into that 50-foot buffer along the entire southern property line. It's intended to be landscaped and is an important aspect that we heard at the last meeting from the neighbors who really wanted it extended. Previously, it was wrapping the homes on the bend in CR 23. It wasn't entirely along the southern property line, and we've made that adjustment in response to concerns. Next slide, please. So the access was a big part of what was discussed at the prior meeting too. Concerns about not generating truck and vehicular traffic on CR 23. So there's now a written commitment in there that we will take access to the property from the north, and that CR 23 will really only be for emergency ingress and egress. That was important to a number of our neighbors residing to the south, so that is now a written commitment. There's also a written commitment that the town of Bristol will approve the site plan, so has oversight over all of these issues that we've discussed and the concerns that were raised. And so we think that's an important part of moving this project forward. The project, I would also note, does need a commercial drive permit, so there's oversight through that process through. Next slide, please. Again, town approval of the site plan. A lot of concern last meeting that what we were saying wouldn't actually get implemented, that would sort of fall off the radar at some point, and that with the written commitment that the town has approval of the site plan will help to ensure that that's not the case. We all want to bring forward a great project, and you have the ability to check all of these things as we bring the site plan forward. The Elkhart County also will review the plan and for all of the development standards in the new Elkhart County Development Ordinance, so there will be lots of oversight over the site plan now. Next slide, please. This shows the property tax summary that we showed previously. There will be a lot of beneficiaries of the data center project here in the town of Bristol. The Elkhart County property tax revenues from 2023 were about $311 million, and based on the current projections here, we think this project will generate on the order of $23 million in taxes annually. Next slide, please. So with the new written commitments and the changes to the project to enhance the desirability and acceptability of it, there are plenty of reasons we hope to vote yes tonight. And so I'll just take you through those here quickly and wrap up. The unanimous approval of the Elkhart County Plan Commission we think is important. It's a $1 billion plus capital investment into the town of Bristol, which is, I believe, the largest project that the town has seen. It is a significant source of real estate tax revenues, as I indicated, generating approximately $23 million per year. It does comply with the current Elkhart County and Town Comprehensive Plan. That comprehensive plan with the designation really seeks to diversify the employment base. And with the new jobs here, this certainly does that. These are technology jobs that are different than the jobs that are currently here. Next slide, please. Again, creates well-paying construction jobs for the build-out of this project. It's a significant project, so the construction timeline will be up to 5 years. So there will be a lot of good-paying construction jobs over a fairly long time. It is a low-traffic generator, as I've indicated. Will, with a written commitment, be taking access from the north, not CR 23. And that now is something that the town will be able to check and confirm through the written commitment of reviewing and approving the site plan. The M1 uses are limited, so you know exactly what you're getting here in a data center. The data center campus is part of a written commitment that it's the zoning, M1 zoning is limited to that. And with these new written commitments to address the concerns, we hope that we'll have your support this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Appreciate the presentation. We're going to open it up here in just a little bit to public comment. But point of order, Alex, would it be okay to read through these written commitments as we amended the ordinance?
You can. I mean, these have been referenced in the petitioner's presentation to the extent you want to make a record of it.
Okay, so I'm going to read through this. At the beginning of this, we made a motion to amend the ordinance to include in the ordinance the written commitments that Tim referred to in his presentation. So I'm going to walk through these with everybody just so everybody knows. And the purpose of this is these will be added to the ordinance. So if they don't do, one of the concerns was that they say they would do these things, but how do we hold them to it? By adding these items to the ordinance, they are held to it. So I'm just going to walk through. Statement of commitment. The owner hereby agrees to the following. Number one, property can only be used as a data center campus, which is already in the ordinance. Number two, the property shall be developed with the building setbacks and landscape buffers, including berms as shown on Exhibit B attached here to and incorporated herein. All landscaping for the property will comply with the Elkhart County Development Codes. Number three, the property shall have road access to County Road 23 for emergency ingress and egress only, and will direct main vehicular access from the north with a commercial drive permit to be approved and issued by the town of Bristol. Number four, the property will comply with the following developmental standards, which shall be depicted in a photometric plan submitted to the town of Bristol as part of the plan review. Only light fixtures with shrouds designed to reduce glare and light pollution shall be used for the exterior lighting. Pole-mounted light fixtures shall be no greater than 18 feet in height above the ground level. Building-mounted light fixtures shall be no greater than 35 feet above the ground level. No uplighting shall be used on the property. And last one, the site plan created for the property for use as a data center campus will be submitted to the town of Bristol for review, and no construction shall occur on the property until such site plan is approved by the town of Bristol, by the Bristol Town Council. Okay, so these are all items that are added to the ordinance. Again, this is binding, and this holds Province Group to make sure that these are implemented into the building should this pass this evening. Okay, so next we're going to get into the public comment section, and I'm going to read through a few rules here. I'm not going to read through the entire list because it would take a while, but I'm going to hit the high points. So each speaker is allowed 3 minutes to come up to the podium and speak. We're going to have Alex Our legal counsel, he's going to be our moderator on the time. So at 2 minutes, he will hold up a yellow card, and at 3 minutes, he will hold up a red card. Each attendee shall be permitted to speak only once, so you'll have 3 minutes one time. Speakers are not permitted to comment on topics unrelated to the issue. So this public meeting is just about the data center. All remarks should be addressed to the council. The presiding officer may see other reasonable viewpoints, neutral limits, or prevent disruption of the meeting. In other words, let's be respectful. We're all adults here. We would just ask that you be respectful when addressing us, and we will do the same for you. Last item is, once all public comment is made, there will be a motion on the next step of the ordinance. And once a motion is made by the council, our group here, there will be no more public comment. So once we make the motion, we may discuss it amongst the 5 of us, but at that point, there will no longer be public comment. So with that said, if you would like to make public comment, we only have 2 questions for you. Number 1, please state your name. And I know some people don't want to give their address, so what we're asking is, when you come up, state your name and tell us if you are a resident of the town of Bristol or if you're outside the town of Bristol. And to define what that means is, if you're a resident within the town limits of Bristol, you'll have either a 3 or 4-digit address. If you have a 5-digit address, even though it says Bristol, you're technically outside the town limits and you're in the township. So if you would like to make public comment, please step up to the podium, and we may want to move the microphone over, and we'll begin.
Funny you brought up address. So in kindergarten, I had to learn Erica Levitt Schieber, 55243 County Road 14, Rural Route 3. And the definition of a rural route, it's away from any large towns or cities. The abbreviation is also used to define a place or roadway with infrequent entrances and low residential or commercial development. However, that is not the case any longer, but it's still the address my parents use. Whatever amendments you made, I consider them irrelevant. It doesn't replace the land. It's still taken away from the land. What are we gonna do when there's no more land for food, for animals or us? It's priceless. I don't understand why this is even a consideration. It's priceless. How can you put a dollar sign on this? Or on people's quality of life? We are a republic, and you all are sitting up there to be our voice, to speak what the people want. It's a republic. That's what we just said. Did we just speak that? Yeah. For which, the republic for which we stand, one nation under God, indivisible, the republic. You are our voice. Clearly, we don't want this. You need to speak for the people. It shouldn't be about dollar signs. It should not be about dollar signs. You speak, and you guys are here to be our voice in this. Half these people probably didn't even know that this was going on, because where did you post that it was happening at? That's what I want to know, because we found out from a flyer from Lester in our mailbox 4 days before the meeting, because he saw it at the public library, which most people use their phones now. We don't get the newspaper because it's 3 pages, that's it. It's not the paper of the old days, it's 3 pages, if that, if anybody even still gets it. It's ridiculous. How are you guys even notifying anybody of these these other companies across the field from my parents' home. We had no clue until they were going up. How are you notifying it? There's social media out there and whatnot. How are you utilizing this to inform anybody? Thank you, Lester. Seriously, thank you, because otherwise we would have no idea. Vote no. Speak for the people that you are supposed to be representing.
Hi, I'm John Metz. I live outside the town, and I just had a question. Are they asking for a tax abatement?
At this point, they have not.
They have not.
We expect they will, but
Okay.
at this point, they have not.
So where does the tax revenue come in when you ask for it? How is that jive?
So,
They're gonna ask for a tax abatement, we're pretty sure about that, right?
right,
Okay.
Yeah.
So they're saying they're gonna generate tax revenue. How does that work if they're asking for a tax abatement? When does that kick in?
Yeah.
They're gonna kick the can down the road 10 years, or?
so I'll give you, and we talked about tax abatements, I think, at the last meeting. I know
I'm sorry,
we
I
did.
missed that one. I wasn't.
Yeah, so we
didn't know
talked about,
it.
yeah, we talked about tax abatements at the last meeting. So the way a tax abatement works, there are two components to a tax abatement. There is real estate and real property. So if we talk about the building we're in right now, real estate is the building, right? Real property are the pews, the chairs, the tables, the computer equipment, all of those things within the building. On a tax abatement,
How does this relate to the revenue that they're gonna be generating?
that's what I'm going to explain.
I don't need to know about tables and chairs.
Okay, well, you asked, so I'm trying to explain it. So, on a tax abatement, they would not get a tax abatement on the real estate, the building. They would probably get a tax abatement on the real property, which would be the contents in the building. The building itself will be valued at $1 billion. They will pay their full tax value on that assessed value for that building. They will not.
Continually, there's no pause or no break, it's ongoing from the day they start.
It's the way the tax abatement is presented, but at this point, we would not provide a tax abatement on the building, only on the real property inside the building.
Okay.
So, that's the $23 million comes from the assessed value of $1 billion for the building.
Thanks for the clarification.
Yep.
Why didn't you say how you were notifying the people? You were answering questions, so that was one of mine. But you didn't tell how anybody's being notified about these meetings and whatnot. I'm just curious.
We can address comments at the end. We want to give people time to speak,
Well, you just
be-
answered him though.
because he had a specific question about a
I did
tax
too.
abatement.
How are you notifying people of what's happening?
We've notified, we have it on our Facebook page, we have it on our website, and we use our Bristol Town app. That's how we notified. Ma'am?
Thank you.
Sorry, my name is Monica Davis. I live in Washington Township in the zip code of Bristol on County Road 23. I am not opposed to development because all land eventually ends up getting developed. It's a fact of life. What I am very concerned about is how should I put this? How the taxes on our actual environment, meaning I do know that data centers use a massive amount of water, and once that water is used, it becomes essentially toxic and cannot be returned through easy processes back to the soil and to replenish the actual water in the soil. So my first question is how much water exactly are they going to be using? How will that toxic water be treated? Will it be returned back to our environmental system? Or will they be pumping in water? Because I don't know if you know, we're in a drought right now. Even my own personal pond at home has dropped 5-6 feet just from the pumping of water for agricultural fields. And with the amount of water required for the data center, I'm not sure that it would be sustainable. Also, is there a way that money can be put up front into a fund so that in the event that when this building is torn down in 15 years, because that's the standard life cycle of a data center, that building will be torn down in an environmentally sustainable way and not create a brownfield that it now exists for Bristol. Third question, will solar panels be installed to cover all the power needs on site with battery storage, because it is now also going to draw from our power system? And I don't know if you know this, but even in the north part of Bristol, we experience power outages, not during storms, but due to excess draw in the amount of people. My last question is, in the event that this data center causes a decrease in property value, is there a buyout option that will exist for current existing property values as of today for those property owners that exist around where the data center will be built?
My name is John Allen Brandt. I live in Bristol. Forever. Vote no to rezone for the data center. It is bad. It's bad, I mean. For Bristol, for the water, the land, electricity, and our homes. Protect our city. Protect me. Vote no.
Thank you, young man. I appreciate your comments. Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Kathy Hall-Lieb. I live at 12 Shore Manor. My family has lived in Bristol for 6 generations. When I was young, my family lived on that farm property. My dad farmed that property. That property was initially owned by Bob Twaits. 2 brothers owned most of that land, Dale and Bob Twaits. Glenn Brown owned a corner. Much of the town used to go to Glenn Brown's little place and solve all the problems of Bristol. It kind of saddens me to see what's become of all that land. It's all been rezoned industry, and I used to play in that field. My question is, who initiated the rezoning? Was it the developer? I feel like, you know, everybody else in town, like this is a backdoor deal. And my voice is shaking because, you know, I'm upset. You know, once that land is gone, it's gone. I mean, that's good fertile farmland. Once something's put on there, you can't get it back. You can't just dig up that, you know, steel girders and the concrete. You can't get it out. You know, every resident has a concern. You know, the noise is a solid concern. You know, 80, 85 decibels, you know, that's a train. We all hear that, you know, if you live in town, you hear the trains going by. That's going to be constant. And you can put a berm up and you can plant trees on top of it, and that's going to buffer it a little bit. But it's going to be a constant low hum. It will be constant. As far as the monies, you know, the tax revenue helping our, you know, the quote was schools and libraries. We have one school, we have one library. You know, we have 1,800 residents in town. That's all. There's no wiggle room for more. Money isn't everything. You know, there's no going back. I really wish you guys would think about what you're doing. So thank you for your time.
Thank you, Kathy. So I'm gonna take a moment just to explain, we are going to address a lot of these questions at the end. We want to let people get up and ask their questions, make their comments, and then we want to address them at the end of the public comment. But I do want to address one thing, Kathy, that you asked. Who initiated the zoning request? It is not the town of Bristol. It is not the Bristol Town Council. It is the Wilhelm Trust family that owns the property. They're the ones that requested a rezoning from the Elkhart County Zoning and Development. It was not the town of Bristol. It was the Wilhelm Trust. They own the property. They have a desire to sell the property, and they're the ones that requested it be zoned, the zoning be changed from A1 to M1 because they are able to sell the property at a greater profit by having it zoned M1 over A1. So again, it is not the town of Bristol that has requested this zoning change. I want everybody to understand that it's not our request to have it rezoned. We are just answering their request. Sir.
Mike Miller, in the rural area of Bristol. First of all, for everybody to know, I do have a copy of the email that went to the Chesterton Council. The reason it was turned down, if you want to know, get with me after the meeting. My first question is, who's going to put up the $560 million to insulate the classrooms from the sound? These are low frequency sounds. The buffer that they are talking about does no good. There was a NASA scientist that has proven all of this. Those sound waves will bend around it. That school is less than 2 miles away. A standard data center at 2.5 miles away was producing decibels at over 60 decibels. This is a mega scale. They're producing the same decibels at 10 miles away. Yes, I have the information, guys. Long-term health effects. These decibels will run off the wildlife. They affect nocturnal animals. You have Amish in the community. They ride horses. It affects the nervous system. Who's taking care of this? Dean, you know I'm a 5th generation. I have a 6th and 7th generation in this town. And I'll be damned if some data center is going to come in here and ruin the life of these kids. Has anybody gotten with the Department of Defense? On a hyperscale data system, it has to be approved by the DoD. I was on the phone today with local, state, and federal agencies. Has that been approved?
As far as the Department of Defense, I can't speak to that because we're not at that stage. This is at the stage of rezoning the property only.
Thank you.
I wasn't going to speak, but I can't not. My name is Sarah Summerall, and I live in this township of Bristol. I appreciate province coming with all their written commitments and all their promises, but you know what's better than that is looking at towns where this has actually happened. Going back to places where they've actually built the data centers in small farming communities and the impact that it has had. So let's do that. In Fort Wayne, Google built a massive data center. In LaPorte, they built a massive Microsoft data center. In both of these communities, there is massive regret. There was lack of transparency on the promises that were given to this community. Their property values plummeted, and there's massive regret on that. And so the thing that I think someone else has also brought this up too is half the people here heard about this by word of mouth or on social media. So I find it, with all the money and resources that this secret company that's coming in has to build this massive billion-dollar data center, they don't have the resources to actually properly notify the people that are going to be affected by it. How many people here live within a half mile to a mile of the data center? Raise your hand. These people are going to lose property value. When you vote yes, you're voting for them to lose their hard-earned dollars and the things that they've invested into their houses. They lose. You lose. There's no winner here. You know who the winner here is? The winner here is the secret data center. That's who wins. And so when Monogram Corn Dog Company moved into here, they came in very intentional about committing to being a part of this community and sowing into it and being a part of building this community up. They were upfront, they were transparent, and we welcome that. We do welcome development. We're just not going to do it in a backdoor shady way. And you know what? Make no mistake. People are watching. You vote yes, and other data center companies are looking, going, oh, that town council's willing to change in A1, 2, and L1. Let's go to Bristol. Because if they did it once, they'll do it again. And we have prime farming property all over this town. And so this is the beginning. I have a family member here today. She's here to scope out for her entire family a new place to live. Why? Because where she comes from, the places that used to be small town farms have all been built up. And now they can't afford to live there. Now they're looking for places where there's still farm town and there's still space to breathe. So her entire family's looking to come to a place like Bristol, Indiana. There's people looking to come to places like this that haven't been built up and haven't been industrialized. You have these slides, and you showed us how you're going to promise that there's going to be low decibels and low lighting and low traffic. You know what else has that? A farm. A farm has low traffic. A farm has low lighting. A farm has all of those things. So we're not taking money away from the Wilhelm Trust. They're not losing. They get to keep their property, but there are people that are willing to come in and actually use it for A1 purposes. And the Wilhelm Trust people, they don't even live here. They're not going to be impacted by it, so vote no.
Okay, so it's abundantly obvious that nobody wants this here. Except for people who are employed by the super mega anonymous secretive corporations that's putting it in. It's abundantly clear you need to vote no on this. At the very least, table it. Don't railroad this through. When it was said earlier by someone that this seemed like backdoor secret money, you all just sat there and glared like robots. If somebody said that about me, I'd be like, no. I'd say, well, table it, I'll prove that we're honest. Do the right thing, don't shove this through. These projects put massive strain on the energy infrastructure of an area. These massive data centers require millions of gallons of water per day, dozens of times, up to 50 times what a city 50 times the size of Bristol would require for all the water needs, for all the people, for all the purposes. They're a huge drain on the community, and it drives up prices. And when there's competition over resources, guess who wins? Not the people of Bristol, the anonymous, secretive super megacorps that we don't even know who they are. It might be communist China. It might be globalist super entities. It's disgusting, and we don't know who's behind this. This is so slimy. Do the right thing. Don't vote on this. And you said later you'd answer questions after. Well, no, I think you should answer. Don't take from the time like you did the one gentleman, the 3 minutes, but answer after each speaker so it doesn't all blur together. You said there wouldn't be any more public content. You really seem like you want to push this through. There are examples from all over the country. Everyone's read them. All you have to do is look online, of communities that deeply regret allowing these mega data centers into their midst. They regret it, and they're desperately trying to figure out how to deal with the problems that they create. Nobody wins except the super megacorp. Do the right thing. I can't imagine you voting yes on this tonight. At the very least, you have to table this and be accountable to the public. There's no way you guys can vote yes on this tonight. Do the right thing for the people of Bristol, and I don't doubt that hopefully the majority of you want to. I don't want to indict everyone, but you'll indict yourselves if you vote yes on this tonight. Do the right thing, please. Please, I don't doubt that the majority of you are decent enough to do the right thing. Please show that tonight with a no vote tonight. You can always do a yes vote later, but once the horse is out of the barn, nobody can ever undo this. I just want to pray real quick. Lord God, I just ask that the truth would prevail tonight and in general. Lord, we ask you to help convict people to do the right thing. Some of them maybe already will. Lord, we want you to be honored by what happens here tonight. And I think there's many people who are people of faith or prayer, and most of us are people who believe in prayer. And we ask you to protect the city of Bristol. Help this to be open and clear, not secretive and anonymous, not slimy, but open and accountable. Help nothing to be railroaded through with a yes vote tonight. It can always be done again later. Help there to be accountability. We ask for truth to prevail. In the name of the Lord, amen. Do it all, guys.
Good evening. Rebecca Yater, County Road 14. I just happened to run into a farmer from Cleveland Road over in Granger today, and he farms on some of the land that Microsoft just bought that they're building the data center over there. $84,000 an acre is what was paid for that land. So while the Wilhelm Trust gets who knows how many tens of thousands per acre, you guys lose. You lose, just like she said. Now, we have a state senator here, and we have a county commissioner here, and our county commissioner stood up at the last meeting and told how the IRDC, which Governor Holcomb, just kind of unelected officials, gave them all this power, how they will be shielded from all kinds of taxes. I believe 25 and even 50 years, if I misspoke, correct, come up and on and correct me. I would like to see the public notice changed to what currently is our newspapers, our articles. No one does take a paper much anymore. Require it to be on all their social media pages, from Twitter to Facebook to Instagram. There's, posted at the fire station. There are ways that we could do it in any city council building. Put a public notice up on the door. Change our laws, please. Be a champion for the people and introduce that this coming session. I beg you. I beg you. You, all of you, you have a chance tonight to be David against a very big Goliath. This is a representative government. You are our voice. $23 million. Greed. What does the Lord say? He says, the love of money is the root of all evil. This town is doing just fine. We don't even know who this is. I mean, that's disrespecting you. It's disrespecting us. If they want to come in the community, have them not apply for the TIF, which you didn't even talk about, in addition to the abatements. Have them agree that they will not take an abatement. Let them come in full-fledged, just like that little company that you mentioned. Our farmland is precious. It is very precious, and the water alone scares me, because he said in his own words at the first meeting, and the water would go back near like what it came. And they actually tried to pull in a farmer and pull in how many gallons he used to irrigate his farmland. And he made a good point. That water goes right back in the ground the way it comes out. And guess what? He doesn't use it every single day, hour after hour after hour, 24 hours a day. Protect our natural resources. Protect us. Protect our way of life. All it takes is one brave town council to say no. That's all it takes, and other people will admire your courage and stand up also and protect our way of life. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Rebecca.
Hello, I'm Lori Hutton. I do not live in the city, but I have Bristol address outside. The noise issue, there have already been amendments that include addressing the light and buffer zones and everything. There wasn't anything concrete included for noise. If this were to be voted on today, the existing 85 decibel level would be what we'd have to use as the criteria for the site approval. I believe that would be correct. You'll have to, but I would suggest that that be an additional amendment or letter that be included prior to final site approval. Some, lower, it was talked about, there's already looking to lower the noise level for the city. Maybe that would need to be done. And with the concerns with this, maybe there is a low frequency noise standard that has been established that would be acceptable for data centers that could be evaluated and imposed also as part of the site plan. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Ryan Elliott. I live at 54868 Leona Court. I do not live in the town of Bristol, but I live about 300 feet from the property.
Right. Hi, Ryan.
So, hi. I request that you guys vote no. And that's based on the current noise ordinance. I do know that you guys recently passed, I think, was it Tuesday, that it go down to 70 decibels. And I commend you, correct?
Yeah, we did amend the noise ordinance, and Mike, correct me if I'm wrong, it's 70 decibels for residential.
75 during the day, 70 during the night.
Yeah, 75 during the day, 70 at night. So they would be held to those standards, 75 during the day and 70 at night.
I commend you for doing that, but I still request, I think that's too high. And where that's at, and that's not coming from just pulling a number out of the sky, that's not just where I want it, but it's actually from an EPA study. And that EPA study is titled, "The Information on Levels of Environmental Noise Requisite to Protect the Public Health and Welfare Within an Adequate Margin of Safety." And within that study, it states, the level identified for the protection of speech communication is 55 decibels within or outside to provide 100% intelligibility of speech or speech sounds. Although speech interference has been identified as the primary interference of noise within human activities, this is referring to above that, and is one of the primary reasons for adverse communication reactions to noise and long-term annoyance. So I'm not asking to say there's no noise. I just want to be able to communicate with my wife in the fashion that I do now and currently live in, which would be at 55 decibels. I know you referenced in the meeting that you had reflected or came up with that ordinance based off of other county or other Middlebury and Goshen. And I just point to that Goshen actually, there during the day is, I believe, 60 decibels. And I think that's more in line, 65, and then it's 55 during night, which is in line with what the EPA stands. And just so you know, 75 to what Goshen has, that's what, 10 decibel difference? That's 50 times louder. It's a logarithmic scale. So it's not just 10 decibels, but it's 50 times louder than what Goshen mandates and 100 times louder than what the EPA mandates or says is recommended for the public health. So I request that you vote no based on non-concrete sound. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ryan.
Good evening. My name is Duni Balta. I live in 18544 County Road 14, so it is on the outskirts of the town. You said that the farm people, whoever owns the land, they file for this change or whatever, right?
Correct.
So my question is, has any of this land been sold already?
No, it has not.
Not that you know of.
It's still in their name.
Do you know what address, does this address, 18627 County Road 23 in Bristol, was that ever part of that farm at all?
That I don't know.
Nobody would know that, right? Well,
You could look it up on GIS.
yeah, because public search here says that 4 point something dumb acres have just been sold back in June 2024 for $1.2 million. So has the sale already been done and over with, and you guys already know the decision you're gonna make? Or
What's the address again?
18627 County Road 23, Bristol.
18627 County Road 23.
18627 County Road 23.
That property is owned by Valmont.
Okay, so that has nothing to do
That has
with
nothing
this
to do with
farm?
this.
Because it's like right there.
So if I recall correctly, that property was purchased by Valmont with an agreement from the landowner.
Okay.
Yeah, so that has nothing to do with this
Okay.
property.
Okay. It seems like everybody here wants a no, and I think you guys are our voices, so you should vote a no. Yes, he has great points, no more than 3 or 4, and they just keep repeating after every slide. It's the same 3 to 4 points. Vote no, please. Listen to your people.
Thank you.
My name is Kathleen Puckett. I live on Willow Bend Boulevard, so I'm outside the city of Bristol, but I will be hugely impacted by this. And I'm really rather flabbergasted that 6 people can affect my life so hugely. I love my home. I love the city of Bristol. When I moved to Bristol, I felt like I found a piece of heaven. It's quiet, it's quaint, it's a wonderful place to live. And now I am finding out that you are going to take our town and ruin it, because you will. Nothing good is going to come of this. No amount of money is worth this. What do we need that we don't already have? We have a school, we have churches, we have a library, we have townspeople, we have neighbors and friends. We do not need this. Please, listen to your conscience. Do not be swayed by the money. Do not be swayed by people who are slick and come in here and say things to you. What profit a man to win the world and lose his soul? You, at some point, will have to be accountable to this, even if it is not by us. You will be held accountable for the decisions you make tonight. Please, I beg of you, vote no.
Thank you.
Live up at Bay Ridge, brand new homeowner, moved there about 9 months ago. Lived over by Concord Eastside Elementary School, and we were about maybe a third of a mile from the bypass. Every day we sit in our backyard and we hear that drone of the row of the cars going up and down the bypass. About 3/10 of a mile, maybe half a mile away. This is about where we live now to where this building's going to be. And that drone, that decibel drone that you're talking about, never ends. It never ends. And this is what we got to make sure we don't have here. When we move to this area, we love the quietness of it. The only thing I want to mention, you folks said you were going to be, answering all these questions. I'm disappointed that I don't see anybody up there writing any of those questions down. None of you. Now, most of the time in these types of meetings, you guys already have an idea of what the questions are going to be. So maybe you're prepared to address most of these issues. But the last thing I'm going to say is that this gentleman made a very nice presentation, well thought out, came back again. But everything we're talking about is just the physical plant. It's all about what's going to happen there is the issue. So, brand new homeowner, love this area, please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. My name is Brett Hartzler, and yes, I do live outside of the town of Bristol and the Bristol limits and everything like that. It has been very discouraging, I would say, here in the last few years, how much agricultural land has been lost. From 2010 until 2022, Indiana has lost 350,000 acres of farmland to development. 22,000 acres have been lost in Elkhart County alone from 2010 to 2022. And obviously we've had a couple years since then, so we've probably even lost more acres of farmland. And obviously that's something we can never ever get back. And we keep, having these outsiders come in with all these development plans, pay high prices for all this acreage and everything like that. And so that Wilhelm farm, they're proposing 250 acres there. They only need 20 to build it. Again, what's going to happen with the remaining acreage there? But again, overall, that Wilhelm farm is 400 acres in all. And so, if you guys let this come in and have this development here, and you talk about low traffic and everything like that, well, there's still an additional 200 acres to that farm. And that's going to, again, propose more plans for more development and more traffic and more noise and everything like that. And again, you guys may have already had talks with, with the Wilhelm Farm and the Pinnacle Group and everything like that to also, possibly develop that other 200 acres. So again, I know it sounds nice with having low traffic and low noise and everything like that. But again, what's going to happen with that other 200 acres once this gets developed? Plus, again, there's about another 500 acres just west of there as well. So all that farmland there, again, probably totaling about 1,000 acres within that neck of the woods could potentially be lost, and it'll never come back.
Thank you, Brett.
I hate to speak again, but my questions were unanswered earlier. I know that they were going to happen at the end, but I would really like to know what is going to happen to that water. Because this is my concern. The average household uses 80 gallons of water a day. There's 274 acres in question. 274 acres times 80 gallons a day is around 19,000 gallons of water a day that is being pumped out of the ground. This data center, I'm looking at estimates online of anywhere between 4 to 10 million gallons a day that are going to be pumped out of our aquifer. Not only that, but those gallons are now contaminated. They cannot go back into the groundwater system. They cannot replenish that groundwater system. How on God's green earth is this environmentally sustainable? I pray that the right decision is made. Like I said, I'm not opposed to the development, but I am opposed to something that will destroy our environment.
Okay, so the water is a big concern, so I want to address that. Tim, can you talk a little bit about the water after it goes through the chillers? Can you address the concern of contaminated water?
Sure.
And the usage, yeah.
Yeah, what we've indicated is that we will be using the town of Bristol water and sewer system. That there are new cooling methods that allow us to not use even remotely near 4 million to 15 million gallons a day. Those would have been the old school.
Let him speak, people. Please let him speak. He's
have,
answering your questions.
Those would have been the old school cooling systems, the water-cooled cooling systems. The technology has evolved pretty significantly and is continuing to rapidly evolve. What we've indicated is that we'll be using approximately 100,000 gallons a day, and that approximately 70,000 gallons a day will be going to the sewer system. And there were a number of people who weren't here at the last meeting, obviously. I thought that Ken Jones did a good job of describing the water and sewer system and the capabilities that the town has and the ability to serve our request.
Okay, thank you, Tim. So I want to address this, right? He just said 100,000 gallons of water a day. That sounds like a lot. I spent an hour on the phone with the Indiana DNR Division of Water yesterday. And I learned quite a bit about the water usage and the St. Joe aquifer that the town of Bristol sits on top of. The Indiana DNR manages the water for this state. They are the ones that monitor this. They say that a high volume user is someone who uses 100,000 gallons of water per day or more. Anybody less than that, they do not monitor. There's concern that 100,000 gallons of water per day is a lot. I talked with Mark Bash from the Indiana DNR. I left flyers out in the foyer for everybody. On the back of that flyer is the Indiana DNR Division of Water. There's a QR code that you can use your phone. You can use your app and you can look up that site, and it monitors all of the high volume, let me get this right, all of the significant water withdrawal facilities. This is the paper I'm talking about. Scan that QR code, you'll find the map. They monitor all of the significant water withdrawal facilities within the state. Mark Bash told me that 100,000 gallons a day for a data center is minimal compared to our, when you look at our aquifer. He said it has no bearing on drying up this aquifer. I do, and I want to give you some facts, okay? So, how many people would rather have that land remain as farm ground? Okay, so here's just a little fact. Within 5 miles of the proposed site, there are 12 irrigation wells that pull water directly from the St. Joe aquifer. The combined usage that is registered for those 12 wells is, and this is a staggering number, 15,485,000 gallons per day. Those wells are qualified to pull that much water out of the aquifer every day. Right. It does. Yep. So and let me continue. So it does go back in the ground, but only 20%. 80% of the water that's used for irrigation does not return to the aquifer. It is taken up by the crops. Now, the good thing is the crops obviously provide food source, whether it's for animals or human, or a lot of the corn and soybean that you see out there right now is used for ethanol and biodiesel. It's not even used for food. So, only 20% of that 15 million gallons per day actually goes back into the ground. So, just to give you an example, over the course of the last 3 years, because this is a report that the DNR gave me, over the course of the last 3 years, those 12 wells pumped 672,744,000 gallons of water. We live there. So, we live there. And the other important thing to note is 70% of the water that Tim just talked about that goes back into the wastewater treatment plant will get treated, and it does go back into the aquifer. That was a question that came up last time at the meeting, and it was a comment that came up Monday night at the library.
Why should we believe that? Why should we believe that? Everything we see documents millions. He's paid by this secretive liar. And if it ends up not being there, he's already voting yes.
Okay, so those are just facts I wanted to share. If you have questions, please step up to the microphone and ask your questions. Thank you, sir.
All right, for those who don't know me, I'm Anna Badke. I live north of Bristol. I've been here all my life. And for you guys to sit here and sell farmland. I work in ag, and how dare you sit here and try and tell us that our farmers are using the same amount of water. You can't do that. You like the food on your table, the clothes that you're wearing? Think a farmer. I just also want to let you guys know, you vote yes on this, I hope each and every one of you gets voted down.
Thank you for the comment, but I want to reiterate, we are not selling the ground. It is not the town of Bristol that's selling the ground. We are answering a rezoning request only.
I want to apologize for yelling from my seat. The gentleman was right. I apologize for that. And I failed to identify myself. My name is Doug Moore. I live on Mark Drive at Bristol. I'm sorry, I'm a homeowner and landowner on Mark Drive. I'm not inside the city limits, but I care a lot about this town. How can we believe the $100,000 number? He's just saying it verbally. Everything we're all seeing online is many times that much. And if it turns out to not be that, and that's not accurate, oh, whoops, they throw a few lawyers at it, nobody can undo it. He's paid. He goes all over the country and makes the speeches, and good for him. But I think the thing that trumps everything else is you're being secretive. We don't even know who's buying the land. It's so weird and slimy. Be accountable. Table this. You can always vote yes later. And I'm sorry I yelled from my seat. But you really seem like you're all advocating for this or sitting there silently. Amazing.
Thank you, Doug.
Today I speak to tell you to vote no on rezoning. My name is Rochelle Brandt. My address is P.O. Box 311 Bristol. My family and I have been a resident of downtown Bristol for 18 years. So downtown we can't even get the U.S. mail at our house, but I love the town anyway. We own our own home and recently paid it off. It took us years of doing it, Dave Ramsey style, rice and beans, and now that investment is at risk. All of our investments are at risk. With all the secrecy surrounding this data center, a non-disclosure clause, we do not even know the name of the organization, the owner of the company, or even if they are a US-owned company. These massive data centers guzzle electricity and can require, I know you say a different figure, so I'm sorry, sir, we see a lot of figures online that differ with that. Over 1 to 6 million gallons of water per day to keep the gigantic oversized data centers from overheating. Hate for that water to run out and know what would happen then. The figure online, by the way, says that this parcel of land that the data center will stretch across is equivalent to a piece of land a mile long by 2/5 of a mile wide, being released with this, that's being purchased by an undisclosed owner, and it obviously doesn't comply with zoning laws for a reason, and that's obviously why we're here today. With what we all face, the loss of property value, compromised, maybe decimated water supply, destroyed farmland, noise pollution, massive strain on the energy infrastructure of an area. And I know you give a lot of figures here, but I'd like to challenge you, if you want the respect in the community, if you want the positions of the city council in the future, and people are hired and fired every day of integrity, and just walking down the street and going to the grocery store and being able to have people look in your eye, then I ask, instead of just voting figures, will each of you, do you believe what you're saying here today? Could I have a raise of hand that every word spoken here by every one of you, you believe those stats are true? May I ask?
I believe Tim is telling us the truth.
Okay. Will you sign a legal document to that, sir, and back all of your personal assets? Because that's what you are asking us to do. You're putting them at risk. You do that, sir, you'll give more information undisclosed, then we'll talk. Then we'll vote.
I do want to address one question that you asked about the owner of the data center. While we do not know the name of it because there's an NDA, we do know that it is a U.S.-owned company. They have confirmed that. An NDA is part of normal business.
My name is Lester Otto,
and I live at 18686 County Road 23. I live in Washington Township. I live on an island surrounded by Bristol. I can't even vote for you guys. I'm in the township. The Wilhelm Trust asked the city to take their farm and put it into the city. So I'm surrounded with the Wilhelm Farm, the total 400 and some acres. As to the address that was being asked earlier about, it was the house across the street from me.
Right, the Valot property?
It is the old Brown farm, the Brown family farm, which now is in the Wilhelm, or was in the Wilhelm Trust. They sold the property to the Miller family. Well, soon after they moved in, Belmont started, now this is all connected, so don't get crazy on me here, but the Belmont moved in a quarter of a mile away from this house. And they came in on an NDA. Nobody knew they were coming in, what they were going to be doing until they started construction. Their manufacturing process was so violent. Now, I'm not going to call them earthquakes, but I'm calling them earth tremors, radiated around from that property. And the tremors had a very, very low frequency vibration. Now, we're personal friends with the Miller family that lived there. And from the time they moved in, after Belmont started their manufacturing, their personalities changed because of the vibration, the frequency of the vibration, and the stress on their bodies. Now, the data center, I'm one quarter of a mile from Belmont to the north. To the west of me, a half a mile, is this data center. This data center is going to have similar vibration and frequencies. And I don't want to like the person I'm going to become, because I'm not going to be happy with it. So I insist that you vote no, because you're putting a detriment on the public that surrounds this land.
Thank you, Lester.
My name is Rick Sargent. I do not live in the city. I have a question about how they're going to treat this water. Most water treatment in the United States is primary, secondary, and tertiary. Primary is basically letting things settle out, send the water downstream. Whatever was in that water is in your fish and your kids. Secondary is where they aerate it. They use bacterium to remove the feces and urine, nothing else. They've done studies in other countries. Germany found Prozac in their fish. Person takes the Prozac, pees, it goes to the sewer treatment, and it doesn't get taken out. Unless they're doing tertiary treatment, they're not removing the toxins they're putting in. What will that cost the city to treat that?
So the water that would come out of the data center that would go into the sewer system would be processed by the wastewater treatment plant here in Bristol. And can I ask you can you talk a little bit about the water treatment process? Thank you.
So just a couple of points of clarification and maybe answer a few questions. Again, what this particular data center will not be using groundwater for cooling or process. That has been a commitment that's been made by the developer from day one. And it probably is likely that other data centers in the past or even currently in other communities do that. But this one, the commitment has been made that there will be no withdrawal from the aquifer. The water that they will use in their facility is for the consumption of the employees only. And that water will be provided by the town of Bristol from the town's upgraded water system, which is underway currently. This town will have plenty of capacity to accommodate 70,000 gallons a day in one plant. That's equal to about 150 homes, something like that. But the facilities that we're adding to the town's water system are significantly, have significant capacity, can completely provide that. The wastewater, the only wastewater that will be discharged from this facility will go into the town's sanitary sewer, which then goes to the wastewater treatment facility, which is over on the St. Joseph River. That facility is currently experiencing a multi-million-dollar upgrade. And although it's working now in its current state, it needed upgrading, and this town has taken the steps to do that. That work will be done about the same time we'll get done with the water system that's currently being upgraded. And by the way, none of that was driven by this business. This was all started, initiated by the council and the town way before we ever heard of Province Corporation or a data center in Bristol. However, that new facility is going to treat wastewater in the town of Bristol to the highest degree it's ever been treated. And likely is not, and because we're going back into the St. Joseph River with the treated water, it'll be really close to drinking water standard. So that means the things that property owners or residents have been concerned about here tonight, really there's no concern relative to water supply or wastewater treatment. That is, the town is in perfect condition to be able to take care of this.
Okay. Thanks, Ken. I do want to, Tim, can you clarify one thing? I want to make sure I understand this correctly that Ken said. Are you using the water for cooling? The 100,000 gallons that you referenced, is that for?
We'll be using a closed loop cooling system. There will be water that circulates. It's the 100,000 gallons and approximately 70,000 that goes back into the sewer system. The bulk of that will be associated with the employees that are there, like a normal industrial building. So it's not, I know there's a lot of things that you can read on the internet with the older data centers and all of the water that it uses, 4 million to 15 million gallons per day. This is not that in any way, shape, or form.
Okay, thank you. I live on Vistula Street. Hi, Lester. Okay, let's let Lester speak, please. Excuse me, ma'am, let's let Lester speak. He's at the microphone.
I have one question. I think this gentleman that just spoke incorrectly. I am not an expert on this subject, but I do believe Bristol gets its water from the St. Joe aquifer.
Yes, we do.
And let's be clear about that.
Yeah.
Bristol takes their water, so the data center is getting their water from the St. Joe aquifer.
Agreed.
So
they
it's
are.
all, everything everybody has said about the water usage is valid.
With the exception of the amount of water.
I have a question for our water experts. What toxins are going to be in this water, and will it be treated to remove those? I don't care if this is the best floating system in the U.S. Will it remove the toxins from his place? That's what I want to know. Not how great it does to remove feces and urine. I want to know if it's going to remove the toxins specific to his closed loop system that we're using to cool.
So I guess, Tim, let's talk a little bit about the closed loop system you talked about, because I'm not sure, sir, what toxins you're talking about.
So the way, I'm not an expert on, and I'm not an expert on data centers and the processes that the system or that this facility will use, but what we're talking about here is non-contact cooling water, so it has no contact with any materials and process at all within the facility. And again, the way the system is set up is to conserve water, not to use it to the point where we're causing attacks on anyone's aquifer. And the claim is right. Bristol has the good fortune of for their municipal supply wells to be located in the St. Joseph Aquifer, as do hundreds of homes along the aquifer's length, which is really the most prolific aquifer in this part of the country. So it's well suited to do what it needs to do for the town of Bristol, and the water that goes through the cooling system is in no contact with process. So it can be perfectly handled by the wastewater system that the town is currently upgrading. So.
Okay, thank you, Ken.
Hello, Peter Puckett, 55606 CR14. So I can't throw a rock and hit the data center from my house, but in the old days I would have been close. I moved here from the San Francisco Bay Area, and specifically watching Silicon Valley and its intrusion and groundwater supplies affecting children's kidneys and all that stuff. I'm not anti-business, I'm not anti-data center, but it's already begun. I'm moving out my last child from the San Francisco Bay Area, who's a grown man, and we were looking at property near where I live, and we're not looking there anymore. We're looking over into Middlebury because we just don't want to take a chance. And I think that's what we're talking about here. It's not about today. It's not about the construction. It's about 2 or 3 years from now. How is this going to affect the community? And I don't think we know. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Charles Mock. I believe I live in town. I just have a quick comment. Do you guys want to be the people who fight for the residents of the town of Bristol, or you want to be the people who destroy it? You're going to destroy the town. You're going to destroy the community. That's all I have to say. Vote no.
Melissa McLean, I live in town. One thing I just want to mention overall, I second everything everybody said. Definitely want you to vote no. But I think going forward, maybe the town council can kind of keep in the back of your mind when you are approached with these issues on rezoning. When you drive into our town, as soon as you see the Welcome to Bristol signs, what does it say? A great place to visit and a wonderful place to live. And it doesn't seem like you're wanting to focus on the people that live here. It's more of these businesses don't live here. The people that work in these businesses don't live here. Like, the town residents are the ones that, again, you're supposed to be the voice for. So I think maybe going into that, it's something that is on our town signs. You know, think about what makes us a small community, what makes it, you know, I grew up in Toledo, and, you know, it's much better here. It's a nice, close-knit community. I've lived here for 15 years now, and I have been to more town hall meetings that seem like this is a repeating issue, that nobody wants these businesses here, but yet you guys still keep getting approached with it, and you're still focusing on bringing in businesses that people don't want. And one other question, a lady brought it up earlier, is I know about the tax abatements and all, but what about the TIF income? Are they eligible for TIF income? Because a data center, I would expect not, but I don't think that'll be the case.
Yeah, so in answer to the TIF question, if there's a TIF district established, which there would be, the TIF money does not go to the property owners. The TIF funds come to the town. That's how TIFs work.
The business doesn't get any TIF income?
No, they actually, the taxes they pay go into the TIF district and the TIF fund that belongs to the town. Businesses do not get TIF money. They pay TIF money.
Yeah.
TIF is a tax increment finance area.
Yep.
And
I'll make sure I bring some information to the next town hall meeting about that, because I don't believe you on that aspect.
okay. Well, let me clarify one thing with that. So there are some businesses in town that get reimbursed through a TIF district. Let me, okay, just hear me out. Hear me out. Are you going to let me talk and explain this? Please. So, if a company comes into town and they pay for the infrastructure around their building, example, roads, sewer, water that goes to their building, they pay for that money up front, okay? And then they are reimbursed through the TIF district. So they're not getting the tax dollars, they're getting reimbursed for the money. It's basically a loan. They get reimbursed for the water and sewer and streets that they paid for up front. So that's, if you see someone getting a TIF reimbursement, that's what it is. But a TIF area is for taxes to be put into that area and used for economic development within the town. That's where, if you see a TIF reimbursement, that's what that's about. Ma'am?
Yes, my name is Sherry Otto. I live at 18686 County Road 23. I will be directly east of the data center. On the maps that you showed, the buffers for sound, there's nothing there to help us. Nothing, but it's free space. There's other areas that there's nothing from the west to protect any of those people, or to the north. Now, if my well goes dry, I've been told it won't be the data center's fault and I have to replace it. And I'm a senior citizen. I'm on a fixed income. I don't have a lot of money. If I lose my value of my house, I can't really relocate very simply. Maybe I'll go in a mobile home, or maybe whatever, go live with a family member if they love me enough. It's not a very good situation to be 71 in this day and age. And everybody in this room, God willing, will reach that point at some time. So, having said all of that, I'm in a little island with Lester and another neighbor that lives east of us. There's no help for us. There's no caring. We came to Bristol 20 years ago, and I thought it was the most wonderful town. I lived across the street from Chris Brown. I had Candace Brown at the other end. They had a horse farm. We were special people. We were included. They had a breakfast club. She served lunch to anybody that would come. Where's that going to go? Data center doesn't care. I ask that you vote no. We need our community. all of our community.
Jill, can you, Mrs. Otto, can you hold on just a second? I want to give this paper to you. So I do want to address, Lester, you and your wife, a comment that was made, and she just made it, about the well going dry. I had Jill give you that pamphlet. There is recourse. If your well dries up because of a high volume user, which would, in this case, be the town of Bristol, not the data center, because the data center would get their water from the town of Bristol. If your well goes dry, it's the town's responsibility to give you water, to provide you with a well and water. Again, I talked with Mark Bash from the DNR. He shared with me, and you can read it in that pamphlet, it's Indiana code that says that we are to provide you with a new well or water at our expense. It would not be your expense. So I want to alleviate that concern for you, Lester, that it would not be upon you.
But what if it happens during construction?
I'm sorry, what?
Wells run off of fingers. So when the well is drilled, if their construction equipment runs over top of that finger and crushes it, that shuts off your water.
If you want to speak, come to the microphone and state your name, please.
William Tankstrom. I live out on County Road 23. Now, you're talking about this being able to cover their well. What if it happens during construction? You said if it's a usage problem that you guys cover it. If it happens during construction, who's going to cover it then?
Well, I'm not sure how construction would crush a well.
Because wells run off of fingers in the ground. It's not a great big lake down there. There's fingers that run. You drill your wells down, and that's where you get your water from. Now, the construction equipment running across one of those fingers collapses that finger. Now you got to drill a new well. Who's going to cover it?
I've never heard of that happening, so I don't know.
Okay, most people have dug wells, 50 to 200 foot deep. My well is 15 foot. I'm on a sand point. So the construction is very likely going to shut my well off. Are you going to cover that? Yeah, make sure that you don't commit yourself to anything.
Well, I'm talking to our lawyer, and he just said it's mandated by, it would be controlled by state law.
And state law is what?
Sir, I don't know the answer to that. I would have to find that out.
So basically, you're just telling people they're just out of luck if something happens.
No, because I don't know what state law is and what would mandate a replacement well.
Okay? Now, he's also talked about his berm buffer. 6 foot? I'm 6 foot tall. You think a 6 foot buffer is going to do any good? No, it needs to be at least double that height. Minimum. So that way we don't have, and with the trees on there, that's going to give us more protection than what his 6 foot berm is going to give us.
Hi, my name is Ernie Yoder, and we're about as close to the project as you can guess. I guess we're outside the city limits, but yet I can throw a rock on it. We're on the south edge of the woods there. So, and I just want to reiterate the biggest question I have, I guess, is of the sound, because we can't get away from it, and it'll be 365 days. It'll be for the rest of our lives. So I just also just want you guys to know that I have prayed for all of you guys that you make the right decision. So don't feel like you're alone. Hopefully you guys can table this and talk about it some more and get some more feedback on it. So just
thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Hi, my name is Tina Waite, and I live at 6 Butternut Court. My property line and the school's property line separate. And I have a concern also. I also have a well. You stated that If the well goes dry, the town is responsible for it, correct?
Correct.
Okay, when my well goes dry, and I come to the town and say, my well went dry, here you go, fix it, it's gonna be my word against yours, and I don't trust you guys. I do not trust you guys as far as I can throw you. I am 59 years old. I have lived on Butternut Court for over 20 years. I raised my daughter in that house. My husband passed away in that house. I don't trust you guys that if God forbid my well goes dry, or any of these other people in here that have a well goes dry, that we don't come to you and say, what are you going to do for us now? You told us in this meeting this is what you were going to do. I don't trust that you're going to stick to your word. I think that when it comes down to it, will you prove to me that that's their project is what caused your well to go dry? That's where we're going to be at when push comes to shove. So can we have it in writing somewhere that for these people who have a well, can we have it in writing from the town of Bristol that you will take care of your people that you're bettering the town for, you will take care of us if it comes to that?
So the answer to the question is the brochure that I gave to Mr. Otto. There are more brochures out on the table in the foyer.
Uh-huh.
That is Indiana state law. If your well goes dry, you contact the DNR, and they will come out and investigate, and they will mandate for the.
You just answered all of our questions. You just answered all of our questions. You're not going to do anything for us.
Excuse me?
You're not going to do anything for us. You're going to pass this on to somebody else who's going to come out and do their assessment and say, I'm sorry, you either have to spend thousands of dollars to hook up to city water or get out there and dig your own well.
So
Oh, yeah.
when I talked with Mark Bash, again from the DNR, yesterday, he was in Huntington the day before. He didn't return my call on Tuesday, because he was in Huntington, Indiana, on the very subject that we're talking about. He was up there helping residents get wells replaced because of an issue with a high volume water user in that area. So
What's that got to do with us?
it's Indiana state law that we will have to replace your well if we cause your well to go dry. I don't know what more you want.
It wasn't from a data center?
No, it wasn't from a data center.
Okay.
Yeah, there was no data center where they were. This was another high volume user that dried up wells in the area. Had nothing to do with the data center.
Okay.
Good evening, Cindy Highcheck, Goshen. 2 points. One, Chevron deference was overturned by SCOTUS. It's a doctrine that says three-letter agencies can create their own rules. I think you can back this up. And so the DNR, to hear you reference their current authority, that is going to start tumbling rapidly, especially when President Trump gets reelected. The second thing is state law can change in one session like that. What she is asking for the town's commitment, I want you to vote no, first of all, but it's absurd to lean on state law because it can change, and Chevron deference in the DNR is not worth the paper that it's written on at this point. It's all subject to change. And Chevron deference is doing to the three-letter agencies what Dobbs is doing for the abortion issue. So it's all changing. It's all subject to change.
I have a couple of questions. My first one is ordinance 8-17-23-6. $1.6 million you bonded the town for. Does anybody know about this bond? No. Nope. You want to talk about what a GO bond is? Yeah. No, I'm asking them.
What's that? That's a go bond, and that was for the town of Bristol to buy a fire truck.
Can
for
you
the-
tell tell the people what this GEO bond is? Explain to them what it is. That they're bond slaves. It's on your ability to tax these people that you pay it back.
Yeah, a go bond has to be repaid, and the bond is for the town of Bristol that purchased a fire truck for the Bristol Fire Department.
My question is explicit consent. Who consented to it?
Okay. Anybody else would like to come up and speak?
Melissa Kaufman. I live outside of city limits. My husband is a fifth-generation founding family from Bristol, so this is very personal to my family. I am also a candidate for state representative in this state. And what I've listened to here and what I've heard is there seems to be a lot of questions that you guys are saying you don't even have the answers to, but you've made a decision to vote. How can you vote without being fully informed? How can these people be expected to accept that you're representing them when they can't be informed? And when they come to you and you tell them you're not informed? Seems like a lot of misinformation. And while we're talking about misinformation, there's a post on Facebook by Brad Rogers, County Commissioner. He's also on the Planning Commission. According to his post and his comment, he was misled by you, the Plan Commission, or whoever else he has been speaking to. He said he was misled and misinformed that when he voted for this and agreed to it, he was told this was going to come back to him with more information so that they could make a final vote before they agreed to this. Now he finds out that's not the case. So is it you guys misled him, or is he misleading us that he voted for this and he just doesn't want to admit it? We don't know. It seems like the government, you guys do a lot of things behind closed doors. You guys do a lot of things you don't tell us about and you're not honest about. And it's time for a lot of transparency and accountability. So if Brad Rogers is saying that he was misled and this should go back to him, why don't you guys send it back to him? Why don't you guys talk about how you pocket annexed this property in to get your hands on it when it is surrounded by county property, not city property? Pocket annexes are not supposed to happen, and the only way you got it is by getting permission from the county. And Brad Rogers says in his comment he was misled to do that.
So I don't know what Brad, I can't speak for Brad, but if Brad is a member of the Plan Commission, when this was presented to the Plan Commission, it is very clearly identified that this property is within the town limits of Bristol, and as a member of the Planning Commission, he would have access to that information and it would have been presented as such.
So you're suggesting that his posted comment in writing, that he's lying, that he was misinformed? Is
No,
that
I'm
what
not-
you're saying? Brad Rogers lied?
No.
Okay, well then he's saying you lied.
all
So who
I'm-
is it? Somebody's lying. Someone is lying.
So you'll need to ask Brad that directly. I'm not going to speak for.
He gave his answer. He said you guys lied. And now you're saying he lied.
No, I'm not.
Someone is lying.
I'm not saying Brad lied. All I'm saying is when a rezoning request is submitted to the Planning Commission, it is very clearly identified where the property resides.
None of us are able to trust you because you have been caught misleading people. This company has already been caught in Chesterton for misleading that community. Other data centers mislead these communities saying this is what we're going to do, this is what we require. And then once they get the approval and we're stuck with it, then they say, oh, by the way, it's not going to be that. It's going to be this. It's going to be that. It's going to be the other thing. And we're stuck with it. And you guys sit here on the board, elected by city residents. You live in the city, but you're making decisions for those outside the city who have no representation on this board. That is wrong. People have spoken.
Sir?
It's Steve Krallman, 17716 County Road 112. I'm just over a hill from there. I just asked the six of you up there, this is $1 billion decision. How many of you have been to more than one up and running data center and talked to the people that live around it? Because that's who you're supposed to represent. My second question is, how many drinking fountains does it take to use 100,000 gallons of water a day? If they're talking about a closed loop cooling system, and I understand you lose water, but this 100,000 that they say they're not using, I don't believe it. And to compare farm irrigation water to water coming out of a sewer pipe, I'd stand under a sprinkler, but I would not stand under a sewer pipe.
Hey, good evening.
Good evening.
I'm Bob Barnes, the county commissioner, and I represent Washington Township in my district. I just got some comments to make. I'm a first-term elected official. One thing I've learned is that we have to make decisions, and sometimes those decisions aren't the easiest. They're hard. You have to pray for them. Sometimes they just keep you up at night. But this is one thing that I have learned being an elected official. The decisions I make to allow people to come into my community need to be good neighbors. I've seen decisions being made prior to my being a commissioner that the people that we allowed in our community didn't respect the community standards of the area that they came into. We should be wise on who we allow into our backyards. We can thank the governor and his IEDC for the rush to have all these data centers brought to here. Everybody knows that we have the largest water reserves in the state of Indiana and probably in the Midwest. So to give the tax incentives, the sales tax and the property tax incentives for up to 50 years through the IEDC for all data centers is making sure that the data centers get preferential treatment over other area businesses coming in for other development. That should be a question, and that should be a red flag to this board. Another comment I want to make is, why is the IEDC giving the richest corporations the biggest tax incentives when they make the most money off of every user on any device? So if you want, we pay for cloud storage, and that's what those data centers are. That's all I got to say.
Thank you, sir.
Mike Miller again. How many people have heard of the Porter County chapter of the Isaac Walton League of America? It's a data center resolution, and it clearly states in here, a data center should not be built within 5 miles of the physical borders of national, state parks, residency, and schools. And this one is less than 2 miles away from a school. Can you explain this? Why would you even think about approving this?
I've not read that data, so I can't address it.
Please read it.
We'll review before we take a vote. No, I'm not going to read it out loud. This is public comment time. This is for you folks to talk to
You're
us.
part
So-
of the public of Bristol. Yes, we will.
Anybody else that would like to make comment tonight?
I'm Pat Blakesley. I live on County Road 16, so about a mile south of this area.
Can you pull the microphone closer to you, sir?
So your new noise ordinance limits sound to 65 decibels during the day. Is that what I heard?
It's 70 at night and 75 during the day.
Okay. Is that strictly just a decibel? It doesn't have any kind of frequency limitations or any kind of spectrum?
It's just a decibel reading. It
Just an
doesn't
overall
define the spectrum of sound.
Okay. And that would be at the property line?
Yes, correct.
Okay, you gave some numbers earlier about other wells within 5 miles of this?
Correct.
And what was the total? You gave a total.
The total that the wells were designed for. Now, I'll admit they're not going to pump this much because it's irrigation. I know they're not going to pump that much, but they have the ability to pump up to 15,485,000 gallons per day.
Okay, I thought you had a number for how much they've actually pumped in the last 2 years or something.
Yeah, the last 3 years, they pumped a total of 672,744,000 gallons.
So 672 million gallons.
Correct.
In 3 years.
In 3 years.
Okay, so rough numbers, a couple 100,000 gallons, a couple 100 million gallons a year. Okay. All right, so that's still significantly more than 100,000 gallons a day, I guess, which figures out to about 36 million gallons a year.
Yes.
Okay. Now this cooling system, I understand it's kind of a closed system. Why does it actually have a return flow?
I would defer to Tim on that. I am not an expert on that question.
Okay. Thank you.
Yep. Tim, are you able to address that question on the closed loop system?
There are some exchanges that occur, but the primary consumption of the water is for the needs within the building. It's going to be the kitchen, the bathrooms, that sort of thing, right? The system is, as Ken said, non-contact, right? So it's a circulating system, and it doesn't use the 5 million to 15 million gallons a day. I don't know what more I can say about that. I've said it again and again.
Okay.
And that's what we've committed to. That's the new cooling systems are advancing in that direction, so they are less consumptive of water because that is a concern in many communities.
Okay, thank you.
Evening, Denny Swartz. I live in Washington Township. If you do not vote to change the zoning, what does the zoning stay at?
If we do not pass it, Denny, it remains A1.
Agriculture.
Agricultural.
Okay. And also, I just want to commend you and thank you for having an open meeting. I know it's not required by law, but thank you for having an open meeting and listening to the public. There's pros and cons on both sides. We voted down a fire territory 6 months ago. I understand you're trying to come up with ways to generate more money for utilities and for public services. But again, you have to have the public's best interest in mind. So I do thank you for listening, and you're just going to have to vote to what you think is best. But thank you.
Thank you, Denny. Appreciate that.
I just have one question that it wasn't answered on the first meeting. How many servers? Nobody ever said. Is there a max? Or, I mean, do they, I don't know how, is there a max height on the building? Can they just go up if they would like? I know it's a three campus deal, but I mean, is there a max height, or is that something you can apply for and then get rezoned for that too?
Okay.
And then as far as the servers go, that wasn't answered when they were asked the last meeting. Also.
Yeah, I would have to ask Tim, do you know how many servers and the height of the building?
That hasn't been set yet. We're at the land use stage of things. We're here to determine whether or not the town is interested in the land use of a data center. And the other thing I would say is, with respect to the height, the M1 zoning district allows 60 feet. And as we've indicated numerous times, we're going to live within that height limit.
Thank you. I'm sorry, what?
The amount of servers dictate the amount of water usage and electricity.
So that hasn't been, as you said, that's not been determined yet.
There you go.
Hi, I'm Rhonda Austin. I live outside of town. And the notifications, they were a null. If it wouldn't have been for Lester, none of us would have known. Our prayer chain actually passed Lester's information to us. You ought to be ashamed of yourselves. And I want to know how many of you are going to go live in Lester's house and trade houses with him. How many want to actually live next to this? I want a clear answer, and I want it answered. Do you want to live in Lester's house? Because I'm sure he'll trade. Yes or no? Any of you?
I have a house that's going to be 2 miles from the data center.
Do you want to live in Lester's house? How many of you want to trade houses with him? Exactly. Okay. How many went to Cassopolis to look at their lights for downtown? Yeah, exactly. How many went to go to these data centers and talk to the people that live around it before you're going to make any of the voting, even the first vote? Did you go visit the data centers? There's one in Grand Rapids that is similar to this one. Did you talk to the people? Because I have a friend in Fort Wayne who absolutely said everybody regrets it.
Don't make a mistake.
Don't make this mistake for our town. Chesterton did the same thing. The people fought back. The only difference is the town listened to them and told the company to go back home. I would expect you would do that too.
Thank you, Rhonda.
Hi, I'm Wendy Yankovich. I live at 55629 County Road 14. I will be able to stand in my driveway and look and hear the data center just around the curve. So just a simple Google search. I am ignorant about all this, and I will be the first to admit that. The electromagnetic interference, the EMFs, the radiation, the EMIs, the bursts. I haven't heard a single word about radiation and all of that. Nothing. So can we please address what would be done there, as well as the sound? I get that. We beat it to a dead horse. But seriously, sorry, I'm gonna be sick. Who's gonna monitor that sound day in and day out? You don't live there. We do. My house is paid for. I don't owe anybody since I was 37 years old. Good job, boo. I'm a stay-at-home mom. I homeschool my daughter. I am home all the time. Please, I beg you, please do not vote this in. But please address any radiation or the bursts of EMFs, EMIs. I don't even know it. I feel ignorant to it, but yeah, like.
So in answer to your question, we have done some research, and the research that I've done indicates that data centers do not emit radiation or EMIs or EMFs any more than a standard office building.
Well, I sure hope whatever company's building that falls safety standards, but we wouldn't know the record.
Okay.
I just have one more question. I understand that the 100,000 gallons of coolant water in a closed loop, how often is that water replaced? And how is it treated when it is replaced? Because that water contains PFASs. Look that up. That's a forever chemical. It cannot be treated out of the water.
So,
Vote no!
And I can address your question on PFAS. PFAS is found in all drinking and groundwater in the entire country. No, PFAS is an additive that gets put into things. There is no, I can just about guarantee, yes it is. PFAS is a chemical that is added to products that we buy as consumers. I know this really well. So this one I know. It is not something that comes from the ground. It is something that is man-made, and it is an additive to products.
I have a question about the cooling system and what kind of material the cooling system is made out of. We're getting an awful lot of reports right now that aluminum, it leaches into the food. For example, aluminum foil. We use aluminum foil all the time, and it leaches into our food. Now we're going to be dumping that back into the water system if it's aluminum cooling system. I know you're saying it's a closed system, but at some point it's going to be replaced.
So just to reiterate what Tim has said, and correct me if I'm wrong, Tim, the water is not used for the cooling system, correct? Okay.
But it has to be replaced at times.
Okay, so water will circulate through the cooling system, but it doesn't come in contact with any of the equipment.
What I'm saying is, what is the closed system made of? It's more than likely going to be aluminum. If it was copper, great. But aluminum is a no-go. I'm still telling you, don't vote for this, especially if it's aluminum.
Again, so province is not at the stage where they've designed the building or the system yet. We know it's a data center, but they haven't designed the building, they haven't designed the system, they haven't identified the server. So just to remind everybody, we are at the stage where the zoning request is to change the land use. Sir.
Okay. Chris Welch, I live just outside of town on County Road 10. So I thank you guys also for listening to everything that we all had to say tonight.
I'm sorry, can you speak into the microphone a little bit closer?
I said I thank you guys for listening to everybody as well. I think we've had a lot of input, and you guys have a pretty good feel for, I think, where the community is. There's been a lot of discussions around the water and other things that have been engineering and technical, and I'm sure you guys are taking that all into consideration. They have, but I don't think that's really what we're here for tonight. So we've all listened to a lot of that. I think at the end of the day, we're all neighbors. I don't know a lot of people, do not know a lot of the people in the room, don't really know a lot of you guys, but I'm your neighbor. We're all neighbors. I think it'd be great if we get along. And we're not asking you guys to understand and have all the answers for the technical questions and what's going to happen to our water. We know there's risk with it to some degree. That's not what you guys are being called to do. You're just called to, do we want that land to be given up to something that's going to be more industrial and make it a less desirable place to live. Yes, we get some more money. Yeah, we could put that money in some things, but we've been pretty resilient in Elkhart County. Pretty good entrepreneurial spirits, and there's means to get money other than a $1 billion entity that's going to compromise how our neighbors feel about each other and everything else. So I'm just saying thank you for you guys listening. I mean, that is your role. I can't say I trust you or don't trust you because I don't know you well enough, but I will trust that your best interest is in what we all want for us to live here. That's why we live here. So that's,
Thank you.
My name's Matt Sweet. I live in Whispering Valley neighborhood. My property butts right up to the woods that will be right adjacent to the south border. Okay. Technically, it's Jefferson Township, not Washington Township. So that being said, if my well dries up, is Bristol responsible for that, or is that another thing that I have to contact the DNR for?
It would fall under the same Indiana code, Indiana state law.
Okay. Another thing, I understand that tonight's vote is just to rezone it to manufacturing from agriculture.
Correct.
So what happens after tonight? Once it's rezoned, does the purchase go through from this company, from the Wilhelm Trust?
No, so that, and I'm gonna, yeah, we don't know about we don't know how the sale transaction will happen. And I think, Tim, and correct me if I'm wrong, I think the next step is if the zoning passes tonight, and then Province Group will work with NIBSCO to define if power can be supplied to the land. If
For the data center.
What's that?
For the data center.
For the data center, correct. Yeah, Province will work with NIBSCO and determine if NIBSCO can provide the power needed for the data center. If NIBSCO says, yes, we can, then Province knows how to proceed. If NIBSCO says, no, we can't supply the power you need, then the data center won't happen. Is that a correct? A fair statement. Okay, thank you, Tim.
Okay. But if NIBSCO does say, then the sale would go through.
Yes.
And this data center
more
would
than
be,
likely.
there wouldn't be a totally separate vote on the data center being in the community at all. It would then be a privately owned property that they could.
Correct, and that's the way it is right now. It's a private. The property is privately owned, and the sellers, which is the Wilhelm Trust, desire to sell the property. So that's the way it works.
So who did this company approach the Wilhelm Trust and say, hey, try to get your property rezoned into manufacturing so we can build our data center here? Or was this all the Wilhelm Trust that just came up with this out of the blue?
Yeah, so the town really has nothing to do with that process. That is a landowner who has shown interest in selling their property, working with a developer to purchase the property. And again, the town has no interest in that. The only interest that we have in this is the request to rezone it from A1 to M1. And in this case, it's requested to zone it to M1 and only be used for a data center.
So what if it's rezoned and NIBSCO says we can't support a data center?
Then,
I mean, from what you explained earlier, you said NIBSCO came through.
So if it gets zoned, if the zoning passes tonight and goes from A1 to M1, and Province Group works with NIBSCO, NIBSCO comes back and says we can't provide you with power, then the property would still be zoned M1, and it could only be used for a data center.
Only.
Only.
Not RV plants or anything like that.
No, absolutely not. The only thing that can be, if this zoning goes through tonight, the only thing that can be built on that property is a data center.
That's it.
Nothing else. Nothing else. Now, if it fails and NIBSCO can't supply the power, the Wilhelms can come back and ask for a rezoning for a different application. They can come back and ask for an M1 with no restrictions.
Okay. My last comment is I haven't heard anybody come up here tonight in support of this. Nobody. Not one person. And Please, some member of our community come up and support this. Show me. I haven't seen it. I don't think anybody here is in support of this, except for this guy.
Lester, I'm going to give you one more shot at the microphone, but we made the statement, it's one time per person, but I understand you're passionate, so we'll allow you to speak one more time.
I want to answer that last gentleman's question. I have personal friends down in New Paris that are landowners, farmers. The province group has approached them out of the blue to buy their land, and they have offered enormous amounts of money to buy their land. They're farmers. They've been farmers all their life for 5 generations. So the province group is the one that's been initiating all these data centers.
Agreed.
And, well, I'm going to shut up.
Don Swift, I live on County Road 10 in Bristol. I wondered why somebody didn't contact NIPSCO before all this to see if they could do this.
We've been in contact with NIPSCO and AEP both about the power needs for the town of Bristol for the last 5 years. So we have approached them about the need for additional power. NIPSCO is actually building a new substation on the east side of Bloomingdale. When's that due to be built, Mike? Starting construction this fall. No, I don't believe it will.
But why don't they find that out before all this?
Because they need to find out if they can even use the property before they approach the utility company.
You got to be kidding me. You can't go ask them?
I'm sorry, what?
You can't go ask them what the problem is or if they could do that?
It's between the data center and NIPSCO. It's not the town. The town's not working with NIPSCO on the power needs for the data center.
But surely they should have been able to find that out before we got this far, right?
So the way the process works is the developer, the province group, needs to first find out if they can build on the property.
Why? That doesn't seem very reasonable. I mean, why not see if you can get the electricity before you can buy the property? I mean, why buy the property if you can't get electricity to it?
They're not buying the property. At this point, they're not buying the property. The Wilhelm Trust is asking for a rezoning.
But why are you asking for the zoning if they're not going to buy the property?
I guess I don't know how to answer your question, sir, because it's a
that's the whole problem, isn't it?
It's a process, and defining
it's not the correct process.
Okay. So, Mike
I didn't hear that.
Mike Yoder just clarified that that's the process that NIPSCO follows. They first have to make sure that the property can be zoned, make sure that it can be financed, and then NIPSCO will tell them if they can have the power or not. Because that's the process that we follow. The town has nothing to do with that process. It's NIPSCO's process on how they determine power needs for potential customers. So, do you have other questions, sir?
I gave you a question, why wasn't that discussed before? Why don't we find out if we can get electricity
sir,
before we rezone? Why do you ask us to come down here if it isn't a given?
I just answered your question, sir. That's the way the process is defined by NIBSCO.
Why should they be the guys in charge? Why are we here?
Sir,
If it's up to
thank
Zipfield.
you for your comments, but we have another person that wants to come up and talk.
Linda Clark. I live at 19620 County Road 16. I love Bristol. I love the water. I had some questions. The biggest concern to begin with is I think there's a fundamental disparity between the approval process and there's one concept of what a data center is, and then there's another one based on what the Plan Commission is approving. And when they approve something through the planning process, it's in the zoning standards that this is what it is defined as, and this is how it's used. So the data center doesn't have any definition in the zoning code, and the developer has not defined exactly what that data center is. Blake Dorio said when he did his presentation that it was very vague compared to what he was used to approving. So I sent you guys on Monday morning that Isaac Walton thing, that it gives a citizen's guide to what can be considered when you're looking at approving these data centers, and it has to do with voluntary compliance with like clean water standards, national clean water standards. And also, I'm a business owner. I have to comply with ANSI standards and OSHA standards. And because the data center is not defined in the zoning code of Elkhart County, it doesn't say like what the standards are. And so we're just giving kind of a blank picture. The other problem that keeps coming up is that Planning Commission had all kinds of statements that this is not going to be significantly interfering with traffic noise, odor, other concerns. But they specifically said in their approval, well, there's no residential impact. It's all in an industrial section. It's not a residential impact. So if you look at the Plan Commission, what they approved, they didn't provide any evidence for the fact that there wasn't going to be noise, odor, or smoke. And that's like evidence that all of these people are providing. The capacity to handle this project, we're talking about like 100,000 gallons of water, but they bought 260 acres. They are only using 26 acres for that million square foot space. They have enough room. If you cover like 75% of that property, which is what the zoning code allows with buildings, they're talking about 8 million square feet. So as far as I'm concerned, I haven't had this man say that this isn't phase one and there isn't going to be a phase two and a phase three where what the capacity for the sewer and the water is going to be exceeded in a very short time. So I'm asking that you table it until your studies come in from Jones Petrie, NIPSCO, and the Bristol Noise Ordinance. Thank you very much. I appreciate all of your time.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
I got one more thing to say about the chemicals, forever chemicals. You said they're in everything that we eat and touch. Then why did the Indiana AG file a lawsuit against 22 companies for not reporting the forever chemicals in their products?
So just to clarify,
They're not in everything.
Just to clarify, I didn't say PFAS was in our food. I said PFAS is in our drinking water.
It's in our drinking water, yes.
That's
but
all I
we
said.
don't need more of it. We don't need more of it. Do you want the AG to file a lawsuit against this company? I would love that. I mean, the companies listed in the lawsuit, 3M, BASF, Carrier, 2 companies, bunch of chemical companies, Tyco Fire Protection. It's ridiculous. This is just all big companies that can pay to do bad things to people like us. That's it. Vote no. Again, vote no.
Okay, any other comments? Okay. Hey, Tim.
Save the
welcome.
best for last. I'm going to keep it short and sweet because you've been hearing what these people have been saying to you tonight. You've been hearing it from me for quite a while. So all I'm going to say is I hope people quit asking you to table this because I would like to see you vote for it tonight in front of everybody, in front of the news and everything. Good luck.
Thank you, Tim. Okay, any additional comments?
Okay, I'm Roma Osterloo, and I live in Washington Township. But have you done any research with any environmental groups like Sierra Club and police and things like this that have dealt with companies like this and are more educated than the gentleman that's being paid by the company to tell us what we want to hear and think we're all going to feel better? Reach out to the people that nationwide have been dealing with these kind of companies to tell us, do you want this in the Bristol area? And thank you for leaving it open as long as you have. I appreciate that.
Thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, if not, we will close the public comment section. And no, we did not look into that. We're trusting Province Group on what they say. We have no reason to believe that they're lying to us. So I'm sorry, sir. We did close the public comment section.
Just one more. I just got one question. My name's Joe. I live on County Road 23. You guys, you're not listening to the people. It's an obvious no. You guys did things. The NDA really upsets me. It's almost like when Nancy Pelosi said, "You got to pass the bill to see what's in it." Really? Come on, guys. Are we at that standard of government? There's a lot of issues that you guys haven't answered. There's a lot of issues that you guys haven't researched. So why the rush?
Again, I want to be clear. This is a rezoning request for A1 to M1. That's what's before us. Okay. I'm gonna close the public comment. We need to move on, and you guys want an answer, right? So we're gonna get ready to vote. So, sir, thank you for your comments.
I want to say this. I still have data on my phone without this data center.
So, okay, public comment section is closed. I want to just talk a little bit about before we take a vote here. I want to talk a little bit about how this process works with regard to the rezoning. The zoning board came to the town of Bristol with a zoning request and a recommendation to change the zoning from A1 to M1 because the Wilhelm Trust owners want to sell the property. Somebody asked about, is there any one person here that's in favor of this? I will tell you that myself and Mike Yoder had a conversation today with a resident who didn't want to come tonight because he was afraid he would be ostracized for his support of this. and I know you're going to say, "Oh, I'm just making all this up," but whatever. He is a business owner in the town of Bristol who lives by the site and actually farms the land. And his comment is, "I am in support of this because it's inevitable that the property is going to sell." So that's the point I want to make. This property is going to sell. No matter what nobody in this room can stop that property from selling. As a council, we need to make a decision for what is the best use of that ground. And farmland, okay, if you want to keep it farmland, buy the land yourself and continue to farm it. That's a simple answer. That's a real simple answer, okay? I'm sorry, we're not taking any more public comment. We closed that. So, correct. Let me finish this, because I will answer where you're going. This zoning request is A1 to M1 with only a data center. If this does not pass, the Wilhelm Trust will go back to the zoning board and request a PUD, a planned unit development, and if that passes, you will get manufacturing in there. You could get a trailer factory, you could get an RV factory, you could get... So you would rather have factories in there that... Okay, so we've talked enough. So we are at the point where the motion. So the request is to pass ordinance. Let me find the right paper. So the request is to rezone to pass ordinance 9-5-2024-2022 as amended with the added agreement by the developer. So I am going to make a motion that we approve that ordinance. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, motion by Jeff Beachy, second by Doug DeSmith. We will open it for council discussion. Any discussion from council? Okay, if not, we will take a vote. Doug DeSmith? Yes. Microphone on?
Yes.
Dean Renfro?
Abstain.
Kathy Burke?
Yes.
Greg Tuholsky?
Yes.
And Jeff Beach is a yes. Motion carries. Okay. Okay. Okay, we're going to continue with the meeting, and the next item on the agenda is Kathy Antonelli, Clerk Treasurer. Contract application, Kathy? Okay, Mike? Can we get Mike's microphone on, please?
Maybe. Is it off? It's on now. So this is pay application number 2 on the wastewater treatment plant. You can see the total numbers there. It's been reviewed by Commonwealth Engineering. They're recommending we pay this application.
Okay. So there's a request to pay application number 2 for the wastewater treatment plant. in the amount of,
$288,914.
thank you, $288,914 to Crosby Construction. Is there a motion to?
Make that motion.
Okay.
I'll second.
I'll make,
Okay, motion by Kathy, second by Greg. Open for discussion? No further discussion. We'll take a vote. Doug DeSmith?
Yes.
Dean Renfro?
Yes.
Kathy Burke?
yes.
Greg Tuholsky?
Yes.
And Jeff Beach is a yes. Motion carries.
Thank you. Next is to address the 2025 budget. This is a motion to advance to second reading. The budget total. Sorry, too many papers. The budget total is $8,780,741. Yes, you do.
Okay.
You also have a copy of it with your agenda.
Okay. On the slides, can we advance? If you click on, under reports, section B, it should bring that. Yep, go down. Go down to section 8 and click on B. Oh, there's no hot link. Okay. So it's, go advance 2 slides, please.
The total's at the very bottom, page 49.
There we go. Thank you. No, it's at the top. Okay, so at this time, we're going to open up a public hearing to discuss the proposed budget for 2025. The proposed budget is in the amount of $8,780,741. Is there anyone in the room that would like to make public comment on the proposed budget? Okay, hearing no public comment, we'll close the public hearing. And is there a motion to advance on second reading the ordinance number 10-3-2024-23, the 2025 budget?
I'll make that motion. I'll
Okay.
second.
Okay, motion by Doug, second by Dean. Open for discussion? No further discussion, we'll take a vote. Doug DeSmith?
Yes.
Dean Renfro?
Yes.
Kathy Burke?
Yes.
Greg Tuholsky?
Yes.
And Jeff Beach is a yes. Motion carries. Okay. Anything else, Kathy? Okay, thank you. Alex, anything tonight? Okay, thank you. The next item on the agenda is the privilege of the floor, so public comment. If there's anybody in the room that would like to make public comment this evening on anything other than the rezoning, please step up to the microphone. Jimmy, be quiet. Nick, slap him, would you? Okay, seeing no public comment, we will close the public comment section. Last item on the agenda, town council discussion items. Doug, anything tonight?
Nothing tonight.
Dean, anything?
Nothing.
Kathy?
Nope.
Greg?
No.
And I have nothing further. Our next meeting will be October 3rd at 7 p.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I make a motion, we adjourn.
Motion by
I'll
Kathy.
second.
Second by Doug. All in favor?
Aye.
Thanks, everybody.